which would be the diencephalon. This is 3 pairs of gray matter structures that are going to be very important later on to us as well as right now. They are the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and the epithalamus. And these 3 structures enclose that third ventricle. Awkward pause there. So here's a mid-sagittal section of the brain, and what we're talking about are the hypothalamus, the thalamus, and the epithalamus. And here it is in the actual brain. So the thalamus is a bilateral, both sides, egg-shaped nuclei that form the supralateral walls of the third ventricle, so above and sides of the third ventricle. It makes up about 80% of the diencephalon. The nuclei here are connected by an interthalamic adhesion, also known as the intermediate mass. They have several nuclei. Those nuclei are named for their location, and those nuclei project and receive fibers from the cerebral cortex. So here they are, ventral anterior, ventral lateral, ventral posterior. The thalamus functions is to act as a relay station for information coming into the cortex. It's going to be responsible for sorting, editing, and relays. It does things like impulses from the hypothalamus for regulating emotional and visceral function. Handles impulses from the cerebellum and basal nuclei for motor activities. And it's involved in memory and sensory integration. Its overall function is to mediate sensation, motor activity, cortical arousal, learning, and memory. Located below the thalamus is the hypothalamus. It forms a cap over the brainstem and forms the inferolateral walls, so below and side walls of the third ventricle. It has a lot of important nuclei. Some of them include the mammary bodies, which are paired, involved in olfactory relay stations. It's connected to the pituitary gland by a structure called the infundibulum. There's that infundibulum, the pituitary gland, and above it is the hypothalamus. Its main visceral control and regulating center which is vital for homeostasis, the hypothalamus is. It controls the autonomic nervous system, things like blood pressure, the rate and force of heartbeat, digestive tract motility, the size of pupils. It initiates physical responses to our emotions. It's part of the limbic system. It's where we perceive pleasures, fears, rage, biological rhythms, and drives, including sex drive. It also regulates body temperature, controlling whether we are going to sweat or shiver, involved in hunger and not hunger, satiety, by responding to nutrient blood levels or hormones, It also regulates water balance and thirst, and regulates sleep-wake cycles. There is a structure there called the suprachiasmatic nucleus that helps set our biological clock. It also controls the endocrine system through the anterior pituitary gland and the production of posterior pituitary hormones, which we covered in the endocrine system. Hypothalamic disturbances can cause a number of disorders, severe body wasting, obesity, sleep disturbances, dehydration, emotional imbalances that can be damaged by tumors. Radiation therapy can damage it, surgery can damage it, and so can injury, trauma. The epithalamus is the most dorsal portion of the diencephalon. It's going to form the roof of the third ventricle. It has the pineal gland in it, extends from the posterior border, which secretes melatonin, and melatonin, we believe, is involved in regulating sleep-wake cycles. So here's a mid-sagittal section of the brain again, showing you the locations that we are talking about. The actual brain. And this is a little different view showing the brainstem in green, which we're about to get to, and the diencephalon here in purple. This is kind of anatomically in position, and this kind of rotates it around the back. That will cover the diencephalon.